Hi, my name's Hannah and I've been a member of Cancer United for about 6 months now, and this is my story. Before my diagnosis, I worked for a sports travel agent where I travel around the world with different sports teams. Every single month I was away doing something different, and I was relatively active, really enjoyed my swimming, gym, sports classes, spin classes, which I now no longer can do. really struggling with that, and I was really sort of out and about a lot with my friends, doing lots of walks. Me and my partner, especially during lockdown, we had this aim that we were going to do as many long walks as possible. So we keep trying to beat our longest walks. And I was relatively healthy, and I don't know, health wasn't really. I was a healthy person, but health wasn't really a big thing for me. I was never concerned about anything. So yeah, everything just took a massive turn beginning of last year. So we had been trying for a baby for a little while, had a few problems along the way, finally got pregnant, really looking forward to it. Took a slightly early maternity leave because I was having a few issues and I was struggling to get to and from work. And we had had our first son in the January, and then it was a couple of days after birth. A midwife was helping me because I was struggling with breastfeeding, and she was like, "Oh, did you know you had a lump here?" And I was like, "No, I have no clue. It's not something that I ever really checked for. Didn't even think about it." And she was like, "Oh, don't worry. It'll just be your milk coming in. Obviously, you've just had a baby. There's so many different hormones going on, but just keep an eye on it." And obviously, being a brand new mum, I didn't keep an eye on it. That was really stupid of me. But I just got trapped with the whole whirlwind of first child craziness, crying, sleepless nights. So literally wasn't on my radar at all. So this was sort of the end of January, and then it got to sort of mid March time, and then I suddenly thought to myself, "Oh yeah, I wonder if that lump's still there." Again, absolutely not thinking anything of it at all. I was quite blasé about it. At the time when the midwife found it, she said that it was like a small lump, sort of pea-sized lump. And then once I felt it, it felt almost like a satsuma, like plum size, and that absolutely terrified me. I thought, "Oh, what on earth is this?" Again, cancer still hadn't crossed my mind, but I was still concerned about what could actually be going on. So I went to the doctor, and they said to me that it was likely to be some sort of infection linked with breastfeeding. But I did say to them at the time, like, I'm not breastfeeding. I had too many problems with it. So it's been a while since any of that's happened. So I would be quite surprised if it was an infection from that. But they were adamant it probably was, and they gave me some antibiotics, sent me away. I then came back a week later because I was like, this doesn't feel right. Antibiotics. If you had an infection, something would have got better, and I didn't feel ill. It just didn't sit right with me at all. So I went back, and I managed to persuade them to put me forward to get checked, because I was like, we just need to know sort of what it is. And they said, it's highly unlikely it's going to be anything, but obviously we'll put you through to a two-week urgent wait list. I didn't end up getting seen for about 6 weeks. They were behind and they were having to run appointments on weekends to try and catch up. And I think part of the reason why I was probably pushed to 6 weeks was obviously they were behind anyway, but they would have been prioritising ones that they thought were probably highly likely to be something bad. And I think because I just had a baby and because of my age, so I was 30 at diagnosis, and I'm about to turn 32 now. So it wasn't really on their radar just as much as it wasn't on mine either. But I eventually got seen by them, and they did a biopsy there and then. They said to me that they were, I think their words were 99% sure it was a fibroadenoma, I can't pronounce that, and not to worry, but they did need to do a biopsy just in case. I think most people at this point, when you mention biopsy, would probably panic. But I was like, oh no, they've said it's only 99% that it's nothing. So I went away still feeling absolutely fine. And I hadn't brought anyone to any of these appointments with me because I was really quite chilled. And then when they called me back in for the results, they called me in for 9 o'clock, and I was a bit like, oh, that's a bit early. I wonder what they're going to say. So I did actually bring someone with me to that appointment, but again, really not expecting anything at all. And I'm so glad that I did bring someone with me, because I can't even imagine getting those words on my own. And I knew as soon as I went into the appointment, I just knew something wasn't right, because there was several people in the room, and the first thing they said to me was, oh, this is so and so, she's a breast care nurse. And I was thinking to myself, why is there a breast care nurse here? Like that doesn't, like, why would they need multiple people in the room if they're just going to come tell me it's a fibroid or it's a cyst? There doesn't need to be multiple people in the room. So I just knew that something wasn't right, and they literally just cut straight to the case, and they were just like, I'm really sorry, it's cancer. And I was just in absolute shock. And I look back at it now, and I didn't take anything in at all as to what they said. I just sat there and I just cried, and all I was thinking was, I am going to die. That was the only thing that was going through my mind. I didn't listen to anything they said, and then they just take you into a room, give you some leaflets, and say basically someone will be in contact with you to arrange your treatment plan, and that was it. You just sort of get left. And it was absolutely terrifying. And I just remember my first thought being, what about my son? Like, we've just tried for so long. We've just tried for so long, and finally got what we wanted. We've got our family, and this is now happened. Like, he's going to grow up without a mum, and that bit was like the hardest. That was like the hardest part of the whole thing, actually. And I'd say that to everyone over and over again. It's just, it does get so much. It does get so much easier, and it's all a bit of a whirlwind from that point. They're just giving you appointments, scans. They need to check whether it's spread. Is it like they need to know like what type it is, and so they do all these things. You're just in and out of the hospital like a crazy person for weeks, and then the oncologist calls and they set up all your treatment plan, and yeah, then it just started from there, really. They told me that I'd have to have chemotherapy, and the stupid thing is, at the beginning they told me that my breast cancer was triple negative, and I was like, oh great, that's good, right? Like that's to me that sounds good, and they were like, actually no, and turns out it wasn't a good thing. Triple negative was just to do with the fact that it didn't have hormones. They basically don't know how it grows, basically, so it's still very unknown cancer. So that was me thinking, oh yeah, that's fine. Silly me, didn't really understand that at all, but because of that they do chemo first, because they want to check how basically the cancer responds to the treatment. So I was whacked straight into 6 months worth of chemotherapy, and then we have the surgery, and then finish up with radiotherapy, which I finished in May of this year. So I am treatment free at the moment. At the beginning, first thoughts are literally, I'm going to die, and I think it was probably about a month to maybe 6 weeks worth of just pure tears, no sleeping, like literally just the worst scenarios go through your head. And also at the point in the beginning, you're waiting for scan results to tell you how far it's spread, what stage you are. So at that point, when you're told it's cancer, you don't know what you're actually looking. You have no idea what treatment lies ahead. You don't know what you're facing. You've got no idea. So it's all this unknown, and your mind goes to the absolute worst places. And I think they told me after I'd had to have a full body scan, and they said to me, there's no sign of it being in your lymph nodes, and there's no sign of it being any distant spreads around any of your body. So once I heard that news, I thought to myself, right, I need to try and focus myself, because I was a mess, and I was like, I need to focus on the positive things that I've got here. and that I've caught it, and I've caught it early. So I need to fight this. And I was like, and I need to fight this for my son. And I think it may have been different if I didn't have Jensen. This whole process may have been very different for me, and might have taken me a lot longer to come to the realization that I can do this. But I had to get up each morning. I had to be there for my son, and my partner. He obviously needed to go back to work at a certain point. He took time off for all these scans and meetings, but he needed to go back to work. So I needed to get on. I needed to get on with life, and I just thought to myself, like, I can't spend my time crying. And it wasn't until, I think, partway through chemo, because before you start chemo as well, you've got no idea like what to expect. And you see in the films, you see very ill looking people, you see people constantly sick, like they can't get out of bed, and obviously that is the reality for some people, but it's not the reality for everyone at all. But you just don't know how you're going to react, and they always say to you, if there's something's not right and you don't feel right, just ring the line, and they will help you. So I was like, right, I've got someone on call, there's someone that I can ring if I struggle. And so I went into chemo absolutely terrified. Like, I was just crying in the chair because I was like, oh my God, what if I have an allergic reaction? What if, like, all these what ifs going on in my head? But as soon as I had the first one, I was actually in shock that I actually felt okay. And I thought, oh, this is going to hit me. Like, this is going to hit me at some point. Like, and don't get me wrong, like, I felt tired. I felt a bit nauseous, but it almost felt like pregnancy. Like, I felt like I was pregnant again. But I got home and I was like, do you know what? Like, I can do this. If this is what chemo is going to be like for me, I can get through this. And I think the more the chemo went along, and don't get me wrong, like, I had days, really down days, when it'd be really dark, I'd be really in my head, and it would be the days that I felt really rough. That's when mentally I would hit my low points when I was feeling rough. But then there would be other days that you almost felt normal, but with a bit of tiredness. But I started living my life again, sort of not normally, but like I would go out for lunches with friends. I even made it, I think it was my second chemotherapy. And 2 days after that, I went to my best friend's wedding, which I didn't think I was going to make. And don't get me wrong, I didn't stay until midnight, but I stayed until about seven in the evening, spent the whole day there, got to see her get married. And I did that on chemo, and I didn't think that like that would happen at all. And I think as it went along, it was almost like, right, this is happening. This is my life now. I need to get on with it. And I met a lady at one point, and she said something to me, and it sort of sat with me, and it's how I've now sort of gone with living my life. And she said, you don't know what's going to happen at any point in your life. Life is short. So she was like, there's no point living like you're dying, because you don't know what's going to happen. So you want to enjoy your life. So if anything bad was to happen, you can look back and be like, I had a brilliant time. So that is how, from about midway through chemo, something was just like a light bulb changed for me. And I just thought, no, like that's right. That is what I need to do. And my down days were less and less. And they give you a scan partway through as well to see how everything's responding. And I got the news that my tumour had shrunk a lot. So to start with, I think it started off about 5 centimetres. And by the halfway mark, it had gone down to 3 centimetres. But they also said it looked quite like dead, not like a live cancer. And then that gave me even an extra push to be like, right, this is it. Like we can do this. After diagnosis, I was assigned a breast care team, and I think there's like five or six of them in our hospitals, and they're shared between a couple of the local hospitals. And basically, they'll have a meeting with you after diagnosis, and they'll give you some leaflets, give you their phone number, talk through the sort of process with you as to sort of what happens next, basically, and what happens if you want to contact them at any point. If you're worried about anything, you call them, you leave a message, and then one of those 5 nurses will then call you back and either answer your question, or if they don't know the answer, they'll either point you in the right direction or find the answer for you. So I found sort of we would go kind of between breast care nurses and the oncologist and the surgeon. So they were like my 3 point of contacts throughout. And I mean, I can't really fault the team. Like everything moved very, very quickly. Very quickly afterwards, and they got things moving. And if I was ever speaking to the wrong person, I would be told like who I would need to speak to. And at different points in your journey, you sit with different people. So because I was having chemotherapy first, I didn't really have any dealings with the surgery team. Or even the breast care nurses to start with, because all my problems or questions would all be side effect related to the chemotherapy or how well was the chemotherapy working. So that would always be oncology. And the one thing they do give you, which I think helps a lot of people, is there's an emergency phone line to call. So if you're ever concerned about side effects or something not being right, you call them rather than like the breast care team or Macmillan. So they would be like your main point of call. I think for me, the actual staff were brilliant, and we were looked after really well, and I can't fault them. For me, there's a big lack of support for young people with cancer, and especially young families with cancer. At no point was there any discussion about any sort of help with regards to like, how on earth do you deal with a cancer diagnosis, one at a young age and two with a young child? There was it was all leaflets on, this is breast cancer, this is surgery, this is chemotherapy. Afterwards it'd be things like moving forward and stuff like that, or charities that can help you with things like days out or just little things like that. But there was never anything about childcare or how do you talk to your child? I mean, my child was obviously young, so I didn't have to have that conversation with how on earth do I tell my children this? But I've spoken to a lot of people that have had the same worries and they've not been helped with anything like that. And they expect you to sort of try to find childcare, to be able to go to appointments. And and there was no sort of mental health support for families. It just didn't feel niche enough. It just felt very, very lonely, like you were the only ones going through it. And there was what would have been really useful was, here's some support groups for young families, here's some support groups for people under the age of 40, for example. There was nothing like that. So I had to go out and find that help myself, and try and do a bit of research myself to see if there was anyone else out there. Because I mean, at the first point I was diagnosed, I was like, I'm the only person. And even in the chemo chair, I was always the youngest by at least 10, 15 years. And it would just feel strange. Like I felt like I just got looks, like people feeling sorry for me. And it was just, it just felt very, very lonely. And I just feel like the support is lacking from that side of things. But I found some lovely charities which do help families with any cancer diagnosis, and also not just the person with the diagnosis, the family members that might be struggling as well. And I also found support groups for younger women. So finding out, obviously it's horrible finding out that other people are in the same situation as me, but it's also something quite comforting knowing that there's other people that you can talk to that really understand the exact stage of life that you're in when getting that cancer diagnosis. So I actually went to a moving forward cancer group locally, and I met a lady there who goes to Cancer United, and before she'd mentioned Cancer United, I was saying to her how my fitness levels had really dropped, because I was quite sort of healthy before the diagnosis, but also before pregnancy. So the mixture of having the 9 months of pregnancy plus the cancer treatment, I've been going on walks and things, and I tried to do swimming through pregnancy, but apart from that, I hadn't really done much exercise for like 2 years, basically. So I was just saying to her how I was really struggling with just stamina, my muscles, everything, my whole body just aches basically. And I just was saying how I didn't feel very comfortable going to my gym, because I just felt like people were looking at me, and even though I know they're not, but it just gives me, I just get that feeling, and I'm always a bit nervous, which is silly because I've always been to the gym and there's never been any problems, but everything sort of just changes afterwards. And she was like, oh, have you heard of Cancer United? And I was like, no, what is that? She asked where I lived, and it turns out that I actually live literally like 10 minutes down the road from this charity, and I had no idea about it. And so she told me a bit about it, and she attended some of the chemo size classes, and even though I wasn't going through chemo anymore, because she had been doing it sort of throughout her treatment. But she was like, oh no, you can still go after your treatment. It's for anyone that's had any cancer diagnosis at any point, and it's there for you. So I was like, oh, I'll have a little look into that. So I went online and I just couldn't believe I'd never heard of it before. I was like, this charity's on my doorstep, and I had no idea. And also I could have been doing this throughout treatment, because I felt okay throughout treatment. Not okay to exercise, but I could have been doing things like the chemo size classes. So I was really, really gutted to find out that I'd missed out on like a really good opportunity that I could have had, but still was really pleased that I'd found it. And I was looking on the website, and I saw a picture of Dwayne on there, and I was like, I really recognise him. And it turns out he did some of my fitness classes at the local gym that I used to go to, and I think the next day I went to a class, and it wasn't Dwayne, it was someone else, but he had just finished a class, and I bumped into him and I just showed him a picture on the Cancer United website, and I was like, is this you? So then I got chatting to Dwayne, and he was like, oh yeah, come along and have a chat and we can get you all set up. And then I started going to a couple of their classes each week. I think it was the fit and bust classes, so that he had a chat with me about sort of what my current fitness levels were and what sort of ones he thought would be suitable for me. And yeah, so we're doing Mondays and Fridays each week, and I absolutely love it. And my fitness levels are nowhere near what they used to be, but they're getting back up, and I'm back to actually enjoying exercise again, which is nice. And there's benefits for exercise in general for everybody, but for me, a big thing for me is my mental health. I was really worried about going into the gym and just feeling judged and just not feeling good in myself. And I think because I didn't feel good in myself, that is why I felt so self-conscious going to a gym. So stepping into Cancer United, knowing that everyone fully understands what I'm feeling and what I'm going through, and just to be able to exercise and not worry, no one's judging, and everything's done at your own speed. So it's tailored to you. So if there's something you can't do, there's something else you can try instead. So just having that group of people with you, all going through the similar things, all at different stages, but just feeling not judged, it's just given you that level of confidence to be like, yeah, I can do this. I can exercise again, and I can feel good, and I can feel good in myself again. So obviously there's health benefits for your body and for your brain, and I just think it just gets you back to sort of a lease of life that you didn't have before. And I'm now, at the same time, I'm back going to the gym and swimming at my local leisure centre at the same time, which I didn't want to do before starting at Cancer United. So it's a big thing for me that I've got that confidence back. Being at Cancer United, it's really boosted that sort of confidence in being able to speak to other people as well, because sometimes you do keep things to yourself, and a lot of the time you don't feel like people understand fully like what you're going through, and even though they'll say that you can speak to them about things, sometimes it's just nice being able to offload and speak to others that understand exactly sort of what you're going through. And if you're having a bad day, and you're there, you can just offload to them, and just having that group of people there that are all just, and even if you're not speaking about it, it's like that support is there. And I know there was a day that I'd had some bad news, and I came in crying, and everyone just sort of rushes over, and they just want to know like, how are you doing, what's wrong, and they're just there to give you a hug, and I just think having it just gives you that extra support network that you didn't have before, but you're having that at the same time as getting to exercise, so it's sort of it's helping in so many ways. I think the main boost to me for the mental health is actually just the confidence in general, because I feel like after a cancer diagnosis and during treatment you lose yourself a little bit. And I think because I was so active beforehand, because I'd then gone from being really active to basically being not on the sofa, but yeah, I just didn't feel myself at all. I felt like I was a bit lost, and I just felt, I don't know, I just felt you feel unfit, even if you don't look much different. Well, apart from the fact I've lost my hair, you don't feel right. Even just things like going up a couple of stairs and not being able to breathe, it really knocks your confidence, and I didn't feel right. Even just being out and about, I just felt like I was just sort of hiding away a little bit. So for me to start, and when I first started at Cancer United, I was so nervous. Like I didn't really know what to expect, and I was just a bit worried about it. But coming in and everyone being so friendly, and showing that there's all sorts of different people at different levels for the exercise, it's taken me some time to build everything up, but I'm starting to feel like me again, which I haven't had for so long, and Cancer United have really helped me with that. So if I hadn't have been to those classes, my confidence I don't even know where my confidence would be, because I don't know if I would I even gone to the gym. I don't know, and it's given me that confidence to be like, right, I can do this. Like I'm back. Like it's me. I'm back, and yeah, and so I can just go out and about and do things now. And I've signed up to, it's probably very silly of me, but I've signed up to their 5K run next month, and I've said I'm probably gonna have to run it, but I wouldn't have done that if I hadn't met Dwayne and the lovely ladies at Cancer United. I would not be doing a 5K run at all. So watch the space and see if I regret that. Right now, I've been out of treatment for about four so months now, and I am back at work, which has been really great for me. It's been great for my mental health, especially. Back at work, son's at nursery. I'm starting to feel like I'm having some sort of normality again, back to old me, well, as old as the new formed old me, and I am back at the gym. I'm doing swimming. I'm basically living life how I would have been before, planning my wedding for December, which we had to delay because of the cancer diagnosis. So lots going on. We're doing up my house currently, so it's all very busy for us, but pleased to say that I am cancer free as far as we're aware, so hopefully it will stay that way, and yeah, hopefully I can carry on this way, and hopefully it will be a distant memory very soon. If I was to go back in time and give myself some advice at the beginning of diagnosis, it would be, don't be scared. I know that sounds like a really silly thing to say, but I think the unknown and the fear, it consumes you, and you don't want that. You want to be concentrating on getting better, living life, and you can do this, and you're stronger. You're so much stronger than you think you are, and you think you've not got it in you, but you have, and there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and you will get there. If someone else was in my situation, and I've spoken to many ladies that have been sort of behind me in their treatment, so I quite often sort of say this to them, and it's, you've just got to take each day as it comes, because at the beginning you tend to think so far in advance, and you're thinking, oh, I've got a whole year worth of this, or oh, this is going to happen, what if this, what if that. You do need to take each day as it comes, because you don't know what's going to happen. Some days you'll feel great, other days you'll feel rubbish. Some days you might have to go into hospital because something's not quite right. So you just need to not think. You need to not think about the future. You need to be there and then, and what can you do with your day to make that better, like as and when. And I didn't do that at the beginning, and I took up so much of my time worrying about future stuff. So it was only about midway through treatment that I thought to myself, right, no, I need to take this step by step, and not worry about scans in the future and things like that. So yeah, for me, that's the main thing that anyone that I speak to, that's what I'll say to them.